Hey and welcome to a new video. First I want to start off by apologizing for not uploading a video regarding my Mustang for over a year. I took a really big break from YouTube. You could say I got a little bit demotivated. I just didn't have the motivation to upload, but there's no excuses. My plan is to get back on track with uploading consistently. So I actually wrote down all the stuff I want to go over in this video just so I don't forget to mention anything, because it's been over a year since I last made the video regarding the car, and if you've been following the Instagram, you will know that the car has been on the road since last year in September. So I already have over 2,000 miles on the car, which obviously is not too much, but it's still something. And in this video, I'm just going to go over everything that's happened basically to finish the restoration in the months prior to completing the car and what's been happening since then. So I firstly want to update you on the engine bay, basically picking up where we left off in the last video. Most of the engine bay, most of the components were already back in the car, but not everything was there. So this is what it looks like right now. Yeah, looking at it, every time I look at it, it's still incredible to see what it looks like right now compared to what it was when, the day we got the car. I'm now also going to show you a picture showing the before and after, basically the transformation of the engine bay. As you can see in the photo, it's just such a big transformation. A lot of work went to it, cleaning the engine bay, rebuilding the engine, installing everything. It took a long time, but just seeing it now is incredible. So yeah. So the next thing I want to update you on is the transmission. Originally when we restored the car, we did not mess with the transmission at all. We got the car on the road, and obviously, as expected, there was noise coming from, I believe, second, third and fifth gear. So it definitely needed some work. And then when it came to around November, December of last year, we took it out the car. The car was in the garage for some time, and I had damage to the main shaft. We replaced the main shaft along with all the synchros and bearings. However, unfortunately, since it was our first time really actually going that much in depth with a manual transmission, not everything went to plan. So putting it back in the car, it's still making noise. So currently the car has another T5 in it. I picked it up from the junkyard, just changed the fluid. I got it for like 150 bucks. So that's what I'm driving with right now. And while in the meantime, me and my father can spend more time working on my T5 and get it, basically get it to a really good condition, make sure that this second time around rebuilding it will be perfect and there won't be any more noise or anything coming from any of the gears or whatever. Moving on to the wheels and tires, after a lot of thinking, I finally made the decision to go with the FR500 wheels. I got these from LMR. They are 17. They're 17s, and yes, they're 17 by 9 in the front and 17 by 10.5 in the back. So in the front I have a 245/45 ZR17. The tires both in the front and the rear are the Nito 555 G2s. I really like them. Really nice grippy tires. So yeah, this is the rear. As I said, it's a 17 by 10.5. And then I have 275/40/17 in the back. So regarding the front suspension, we basically replaced everything. The only thing that's still stock on the car regarding the front suspension is the springs that my plan is to lower the car, so at some point in the near future they will be replaced as well. Regarding the rear suspension, both the shocks and the quad shocks we replaced, and as well as this we replaced the spring isolators and the lower control arms. So the only thing that hasn't been replaced are the springs themselves, and that's what it's like in the front as well. The car is currently still on the stock springs in the front and the back, and my plan is to lower the car in the near future, so the springs will also be replaced at some point. So to also show you the brake calipers, we actually put quite a bit of time into them. We took them fully apart, we cleaned them, then we actually sandblasted them, and then after that we painted them with this really nice blue paint, and I think it turned out great. Obviously now they're a little dirty because I haven't washed the car recently, but you get the idea. I think with the silver wheel, you've got the blue caliper. I think it looks really nice. So as well as replacing the rotors, the brake pads, working on the calipers, making them look nice, and fixing all the suspension. We also had to take care of the fuel system, so we actually ended up replacing the fuel pump, the fuel filter, and the fuel tank itself. Originally our plan was to not replace the fuel tank because we didn't think we had to. However, after taking out the fuel pump, you could see just rust and all kinds of other contamination in the fuel tank, so it was definitely a good idea to replace it. Moving on to the exhaust on the car, I already mentioned it in the previous video, however it's been a long time, so I'm going to talk about it again briefly. The current exhaust setup on the car is the stock headers, which me and my father sandblasted and we painted so they look basically brand new. Then from the headers we have a MagnaFlow catted X pipe, so I think the X pipe really brings a nice tone to the car. And then with the cat back we went with the MagnaFlow street cat back. I think overall as a combination, I think it's really nice. It's definitely not the loudest exhaust on the market, but especially wide open throttle, I think it sounds amazing. And definitely at some point in one of my next videos I will be doing an exhaust review and giving my opinion on the exhaust. So this is what the interior looks like. The seats along with the armrest, the shifter boot and the steering wheel, I actually had them reupholstered in Bulgaria by an upholstery shop. Originally my grandfather he took his car there a while back in Bulgaria to have his headliner redone, and then from there he sent me a photo. So you know, going back there one Christmas I took my shifter boot, they redid it for me. And then, you know, I started talking to them about, you know, maybe can I bring my seats over? I'll just bring one seat, you know, with the upholstery, and then you can make 2 sets of upholstery for both seats. And then, you know, they said, yeah, we could do that. So that's what ended up happening. So I think it turned out great. You know, I have this, it's a really nice leather. And then the center section is perforated. I'm not sure how well you can see it. And then I also chose to have a custom touch by going with some blue stitching everywhere. So I think it turned out really great. And yeah, I think the interior turned out great. You know, it's apart from the seats and, you know, the armrest, the steering wheel and the shifter boot, and it's mostly stock. I didn't really have to do anything. I just had to clean it really well. And I think considering how much work also went into the interior, I think it also deserves its own video. So one of the upcoming videos will be just focused on talking about everything that we did to the interior, so expect that sometime in the near future. So after getting the car mostly completed, it was time to start it up for the first time, which happened in August of last year. And you know, the first time we started up the car we had no problem. The second time turning the key and attempting to start it, it started right away, no problem. And you know, we only ran it for I guess under a minute, because we had a small leak from one of the power steering hoses that we replaced. And then the next day we went to start the car again and it would not start. And then after a few attempts we noticed that smoke was coming from the ignition control module. So we said okay, it's faulty. We replaced the ignition control module. However, the same thing occurred. We attempted to start the car again and smoke was coming from it once again. So we knew that it was something much more complicated than that, and we started, you know, diagnosing it, and we found out that I was having the resistance I was having between the ignition control module and one of my ground terminals was the amount of ohms, the amount of resistance was much more than what it should be. So into the 203 ground terminals, you know, we put some dielectric grease on them, and then we started up the car right away. So now the car started, however the idle was not maintained. And immediately, you know, being a 95 Mustang, you know, one of the first things that comes to mind is that it has to be the IAC, the idle air control valve. So we tested it, it tested bad. We had another one spare we picked up from the junkyard. We put it there and we installed it. You know, after doing that, the vehicle could idle on its own. However, the idle was a little rough, so using the bleed screw, you know, we did a idle adjustment on it, and then since then I've had no problems with the car. So it took some time to diagnose, but it was a really good learning experience for me. And yeah, it felt nice to, you know, be able to diagnose the car with my father without, you know, looking for any extra help outside of. While restoring the car, my goal was to actually have the car completed and be able to attend the local car show we have here in town at the end of September every year, and it was actually quite a rush because we managed to complete the car the day before the car show, and I was there on that day, which felt amazing. But the car show was on Saturday, and I remember it was I believe it was Wednesday, and there was still a lot of work that had to be done to the car. The brakes we still had to finish assembling the brakes, the whole front end, the bumper, the headlights, nothing was there yet. So the few days before the car show were just a lot of work. I was probably here in the garage every day until 2 or 3 a.m. just making sure, making that dream of mine, to be at the car show along with my father's Mustang, attending with both Mustangs. I just really wanted to make it happen, and after working hard a few days until really late here in the garage, I made it happen. So it felt good, to be there. And as a surprise, by luck, I actually also, from the raffle, I ended up winning the grand prize of the car show, which was a set of tires, which I have over there. They're all season tires. I guess I can go more into detail on them in a future video as well. But yeah, it felt amazing to be at the car show and make my dream come true, because already from the year before that, when we attended with my father only with his Mustang, I said to myself, I'm going to do whatever it takes to attend with both Mustangs the year after, which was last year in 2019, and to be there, just driving up to the car show and just arriving there just felt amazing after those previous few days where I was working in the garage endlessly. Like, it felt like forever, but we got the car completed on time. We were there, had a good time. So for a final update, after the car show in September of last year, in the months leading up to the end of the year, so October, November, December, I also took care of 3 more things on the car. Firstly, I took care of my AC. I charged it, and however recently, unfortunately, it's not working very well again because it's leaking from one of the Schrader valves. So within the next month or so, I'm going to replace that Schrader valve and charge it again. So that's something I need to work on. Then after the AC, I also did an alignment on the car, because originally, having replaced all my front suspension, my steering wheel was a little crooked. So I adjusted my toe. The camber and caster were good, so I didn't have to do anything to them. And after those 2 things, I believe it was around October or November, I also changed the fluid in the differential. When I had the cover off while working on it, I also did a close examination of my gears, and surprisingly, considering how much mileage is on the car, they're still in good shape. So for now, I don't plan on swapping out the gears or the gear ratio or anything like that. I'm just going to just leave them as they are. But yeah, I changed the fluid, so yeah, it definitely had to be done. Just looking at how kind of nasty, let's say, the old fluid, it looked like it was the original, so it definitely had to be changed. But yeah, those are just some of the things I did. And very recently, about a month ago, I also did a full paint correction to the car, which I guess I could talk about, briefly explain how I did my paint correction. I also did it to my father's Mustang. It's a pretty simple process. I think it takes, let's say, roughly a day or so, but the results are really nice. It's got a really nice shiny look to it. But yeah, that's it for this video. I want to thank you for watching, and I will see you in my next video. Bye.